Representative Humphrey, thank you for joining us today. You've been in office since 2018. Tell us a little about your time there.
Well, thanks for having me. 2018 seems like just yesterday. It's been a whirlwind. We've had some good years over the past 6 years. We've had some challenges as well. I mean, you have so many funding needs throughout the state. You can't max them all out, make everyone happy. But I think we've done a good job with our conservative policies, trying to put money away in the rainy day fund, give teachers raises, fund special projects in districts like Lenore, Jones, and Greene County. So it's been an honor to serve.
How's that been with, you've got basically a supermajority in the House and Senate or majority in the House. How's it been with a governor who's Democrat in making sure that you don't compromise your own principles, but you're able to get good policy in the budget passed?
Well, I think it's a good balance. The checks and balances is working. The people elected the Republican in a supermajority for a reason. I mean, I think they've seen the growth over the years. North Carolina is one of the top states in the country to do business. We might disagree philosophically on some things, but I think that we're pretty close in what we do agree on in most respects. It's been a good thing, I think, for to have a supermajority, so that we can get funds down in our districts that are direly needed.
And think about this district. Recently, Senator Tillis was in town at the Global Trans Park to help with the announcement of the FRC East. You've got fly exclusive there at the Global Trans Park. It finally seems like there's incredible momentum. Tell us a little bit about your thoughts on the Global Trans Park, about FRC East, fly exclusive, et cetera. Well,
selling the Global Trans Park statewide has been a challenge. I mean, we know this for the last 40 years. It's been seen as a boondoggle, the white elephant in the room. But we persisted, we persevered. I mean, we've had good, solid leadership that has made sure that the Global Trans Park stays at the forefront of our colleagues in the General Assembly. Most folks out west have never been to the Global Trans Park, so they don't see the need and see the strategic partnership that the Global Trans Park has provided. I mean, with public-private partnerships with Fly Exclusive and the military, it is a big thing. I mean, we may not ever see commercial air service there again, but if we can attract these military contractors to the Global Trans Park like we have been doing, and see the federal government invest almost $400 million there, then it puts us on the map, and it makes others in the state see that this is a viable part of our region.
Think about from their local residents and from future generations who are going to graduate from Lenore Community College or a university or coming straight into the workforce, about the jobs and economy. I mean, do you really think that these projects will have a significant impact on our economy here?
I think they'll have a big impact, but we've got to do something about housing. There's a housing shortage here in Lenore County. There's not enough affordable housing structures in the area. A nice apartment complex here or there would be an attractive part, because we're losing some of these folks to surrounding areas. They're working here and they will work here, but they're living in other areas. But some local developers that are looking at ways to try to make Kinston and Lenore County and the region an attractive place to live, because now there's just, I think the last apartment complex, besides maybe the one that was just built over on
by Kinston High School,
was built in like 1988.
And I saw Cam McCray recently. We talked about the bird dogs and whatnot, but we also got a chance to talk about Cutter Creek. He said he's got 17 houses going up there now. So it seems like he's trying to meet some of that demand out there. And I know near where I live, you've got the Butterfield place up the top of Hardy Road. Right. So it seems like there's some attempt, but what you're saying is it's probably not enough. We need more.
Well, we do. I mean, we need something pretty quickly too, because we're looking at hundreds of jobs in the near term, and building these affordable apartments, for instance. The houses at Cutter Creek are really nice, but everyone can't afford to live there.
Right.
And but an apartment to help bring folks here to have them move here, so we can attract more restaurants and more retail shops, will go a long way down the road, and hopefully those apartment dwellers can build a home or buy a home and set up a permanent residence.
And think about your district, which includes Lenoir, Greene, and Jones counties. One of the greatest institutions we have that cuts across all three counties is Lenoir Community College. Tell us about your relationship with the college, maybe even with Rusty Hunt, or about the importance of the community college and the education system here in general.
Well, as you know, I went to Lenoir Community College and earned an associate's degree before transferring. So I've got deep roots there. I've served on the Lenoir Community College Foundation for, I believe, about 25 years. The scholarship arm of the college, and my wife and I endowed a scholarship recently. So it's an important engine for this area for sure. I mean, it trains people, and we're trying to attract folks to come to school there to learn a trade, not just to transfer. So it's an important economic engine in trying to make sure folks have the tools they need to go out in the workforce. Rusty Hunt is a great leader. I was fortunate enough to be on the board of trustees at the time when we hired him, and it was a great hire. Every community college has its challenges with enrollment and that sort of thing, and Rusty's at the forefront of that. He served on statewide committees trying to reformulate the funding the funding efforts by the state, because it's based on enrollment on campus and that sort of thing. So they're trying to find creative ways to make sure that funding goes into these community colleges, especially rural areas like ours, and to make sure that folks get the training they need.
And think about the Global Transport and community college system, especially Lenoir Community College. You got a new facility that's being built there at the Global Transport. It seems like, at least from an outside perspective, that the college is trying to meet the needs of the business and industrial community here.
Yeah, and that's always been their objective. When Spirit Air Systems moved here, Smithfield, they provided training that the state paid for, for these industries. And this Aviation Center for Excellence is going to be amazing. Senator Perry deserves a lot of credit for that, and he got the building named after him. But trying to secure that funding, it was $25 million a few years ago, and we thought it being a task that just couldn't be accomplished. But again, our colleagues across the state, across the aisle, saw the need and saw the advantage of having such a training facility here in the East, where they can partner with Elizabeth City State, East Carolina, other colleges and universities in the area, Wayne Community College. And Pitt Community College. Big partnership. So bringing those folks together has been a big deal, and it'll make it work.
And think about education. Here in Lenoir County, E.B. Frink Middle School is about to have a new school. In Greene County, Greene Central is about to build. Tell us about the importance of the new construction in these schools.
Yeah, well, as you know, this area hasn't seen new construction in a while, and we had to have a bond pass to be able to fund these schools. So through the superintendent's office, through the General Assembly, through taxpayers, we were able to secure funding to build these new schools. My daughters went to Frink, yours went to Frink, and that school has been one of the most. It's been well kept through the years, really has. But it needed replacing years ago, and folks of LaGrange deserve that, and I think it'll be a shining light for Lenoir County, and Greene County schools as well. Greene Central is old, but it's been well kept, and luckily we were able to secure additional funding to take care of some inflationary costs to help make sure these schools are built, and I think the leaders, the superintendents in both counties, have tried to make cuts so that they can make the funds work. And I think both of those leaders have done a great job. They and their teams have done a great job trying to use taxpayer money wisely.
Now, something that you and I worked on years ago when I was in office, that still I know something that you care deeply about is transportation and roads here. And I think about that two different ways. One is public transportation. Another one is the actual road and infrastructure and the highways. What's been your involvement on that, and anything in the future we should expect to see there?
Well, we're hoping to create a new formula to help funding for rural areas. If you go by the old funding structure, Wake County, Mecklenburg County, Forsyth, those big areas would get most of the funding. And while they need a lot of funding because they have pretty sophisticated roads and major highways, we need them here as well so that folks can get from the west to the east and work and set down their home here. Mm-hmm. So we're working on a new funding criteria for that. You have electric cars now. They weren't paying a gas tax, right, obviously. So we've got to figure out a way that if you use the highways, there's equitable distribution of cost to use those roads. Mm-hmm. Don't just put it all on gas-powered vehicles. So we've got some challenges. We've had some shortfalls in DOT. I think we've filled the gap in most places, but we've got to look at long-term recurring monies to help keep us up to date.
Mm-hmm. And thinking about transportation, going to and fro, what do you say to people who have a hard time getting transportation or don't have their own transportation?
In rural areas, that's always going to be a challenge. Luckily, we've got these transit systems that receive federal and state funding to help mobilize folks who aren't able to get to a doctor's appointment or to a mall. I mean, and those folks, they just don't have vehicles. They can't afford them, or they don't have access and don't know how to drive in a lot of cases. I mean, it's not always about the money. So I think that's important for rural areas, just like broadband is, just like access to quality health care.
Right.
I mean, we've got so many challenges in rural areas. We're trying to fill those needs, but it takes time.
Well, I mean, thinking about that, because we could talk for another hour and feel like we haven't even touched all the topics. I mean, how are the rural counties? Are they working together? I mean, Republicans and Democrats, are they senators and representatives? Are they actually working together, or are you seeing more party line votes in Raleigh?
Well, when it comes to rural needs, there's more of a collaboration because we don't. As leaders, we don't care what party you are. We want to make sure you have equal access to education, health care, rural broadband, transportation. Rural areas are represented by Democrats too. So, we've got to work together. We can't let politics get in the way of trying to make sure that rural folks aren't taken care of.
Mm-hmm. Real quick, you currently serve as chair of the North Carolina Insurance Committee, the House Committee. Tell us about what's the latest in insurance for homeowners, auto. I mean, I know it's in your line of work, but in that policy role, you have a little bit different. You get a little bit different vantage point on how like hurricanes and natural disasters affect those kind of rates.
Yeah, I had a conversation with Commissioner Mike Causey, the state insurance commissioner, last week, and he was in Kinston actually, and he says we're still facing challenges of inflationary pressures. Mm-hmm. We've got a healthy insurance community. I mean, a healthy insurance. We don't see a lot of. You see a lot of carriers. You don't see a lot of carriers leaving the state. Mm-hmm. When you see carriers starting to leave the state, that makes competition not as brisk. Mm-hmm. And rates can kind of get out of hand. So the more companies you have here offering coverage, the better the rates are. And our system is, it's got some challenges. There are some, insurance companies buy insurance to cover catastrophic losses, and right. that cost gets expensive. So, working with carriers to try to lower rates is something we do every day. Mm-hmm. We just got to keep in mind that we want carriers to want to come to North Carolina because it helps keep our premiums low. And we historically have some of the lowest premiums in the nation.
And I know by the time this conversation airs, I mean the Western NC has been flooded for the past week now, and probably a couple weeks before this actual interview airs. But what can you say to have you talked to your Western NC colleagues? What are you saying to them? What are you hearing from them? Is the state prepared to do anything to help?
Yeah, I've spoken to several of my colleagues out in Western North Carolina. I've spoken to National Guard leaders, some veteran leaders, and right now just trying to get to those folks to help them has been a challenge. Luckily, there are some private companies that are using their resources, helicopters and aircraft to get supplies in. So now we're getting folks to take supplies to areas that haven't been hit, so that the military and other volunteers can airdrop supplies in those spaces. It's devastating. I mean, it is a storm of biblical proportions, as you've heard. As you've heard several people say.
One last thought, thinking about before we kind of close out, thinking about this election, and you've got a presidential election, a gubernatorial election. Tell us what you think the Harris and Trump battle is going to be like and its impact, and honestly, even with Stein and Robinson's new revelations, how do you think that's going to affect the politics of this state this election cycle?
Well, as we know, the Trump-Harris campaign is tight. I mean, it's going to come down to election night. I mean, it's
right.
And then you add on the devastation of Western North Carolina. How's that going to affect the elections? Some people, if the mail can't run, if carriers can't get ballots throughout the area. The Josh Stein, Mark Robinson race has taken a turn that's probably going to see it's going to be an uphill battle for Lieutenant Governor Robinson to overcome. Whether or not the allegations are true or not, voters will make that decision. But the polls are showing that they want to see proof that it's not true. So how it affects down ballot races is going to be interesting as well. I heard Governor McCrory say that he lost by 10,000 votes, and so that's out of what, I don't know how many votes are cast,
right.
Millions.
Yeah, we're one of the top 10 most populous states. 10,000 votes isn't that much.
No, I know, but it can swing an election. So election night's going to be a long night.
Well, in fact, we'll be bringing live results right here at News on Facebook Live, as we tend to do. It's always been a fun. It's kind of like our own Super Bowl at 7:15 on that Tuesday night. But do you have any final thoughts that you want to mention to the voters as they think about your candidacy in this election cycle?
Well, I appreciate the trust and confidence you placed in me to work as your state representative for the last 6 years, and I'd appreciate your vote. This upcoming election, early voting may have started by the time this airs on October 17th, and so your willingness to put your faith and trust in me is humbling, and I consider it an honor to serve you in Raleigh, and I always encourage folks to reach out if we can ever help you cut through some red tape, or at least try. My office stands ready to assist. So thank you, and I'd appreciate your vote.
Oh, Chris, thank you again for joining us today. We appreciate your service and again, your willingness to serve in the future.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. Appreciate you having me.